Former President Donald Trump is doing a some sort of tour with Bill O'Reilly. It's kind of hilarious because they've been friends for a while, way before Trump ran for president. And I think Bill O'Reilly probably twisted Trump's arm into doing this. And it's surprisingly, they have like half-empty stadiums when they go and do these things. Now, interestingly, Trump on his own can pull a massive rally. We've seen it time and time again. We've even seen it relatively recently. But for whatever reason, when Bill O'Reilly's there, all of a sudden, the numbers plummet. It's like since he's been on Fox News, he's become massively irrelevant, which is funny because he was the number one guy on Fox News in regards to the ratings. So in this conversation, in this back and forth, Bill O'Reilly brings up the vaccine and the booster shot, the third COVID shot. And you're going to be surprised as to, number one, what Bill O'Reilly and what Donald Trump says about it. But then furthermore, the reaction of their own people. Watch.
But look, we did something that was historic. We saved tens of millions of lives worldwide. We, together, all of us, not me, we got a vaccine done, 3 vaccines done, and tremendous therapeutics like Regeneron and other things that have saved a lot of lives. We got a vaccine done in less than 9 months that was supposed to take from 5 to 12 years. Because of that vaccine, millions and millions of people, I think this would have been the Spanish flu of 1917, where up to 100 million people died. This was going to ravage the country far beyond what it is right now. Take credit for it. Take credit for it. What we've done is historic. Don't let them take it away. Don't take it away from ourselves. You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced to take it. No mandates, but take credit because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Okay, so the president made news.
Do you agree with that?
Right? Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. That's all. There's a very tiny group over there.
I'm not joking when I say if liberals decided to take the opposite position, if liberals went out there and started being very vocally anti-vax, I think every conservative in this country would get the vaccine. With Trump being pro-vaccine here, and if liberals were like leaning heavy on, this is the Trump vaccine, I don't trust it, I'm never going to take it, conservatives would be asking for a 4th shot and a 5th shot already. They'd be using it like it was a drug. So, little reverse psychology may have helped. I mean, I'm being somewhat facetious here, but it's also kind of true. So, look, I can tell you why he did this. Why he did this is not a mystery. Trump, during his campaigns, I should say, he's very good at A/B testing. So he'll go out there and give a rally, and he'll have his list of talking points, and he'll go through them. And whichever talking points get the most applause and the most support, those are the ones that he then uses more in the upcoming speeches and rallies. And so he was able to fine-tune his speech over time, where he was just throwing red meat to his base nonstop in every rally, and they loved that. He would drop the things that weren't popular and do the things that were popular. And listen, he knows, what do we have, 70% of the country, something like that, is fully vaccinated, and maybe an even higher percentage is at least has the first shot. And so he can see those numbers. He knows that it's an ironclad fact that the overwhelming majority of the country is on the side of the vaccine. So now he's out there doing pro-vaccine stuff. What maybe he didn't realize is that there's a very vocal minority in the country and a vocal larger minority in the Republican Party and among the Trump base that really is super anti-vaccine. And so that's what he's contending with right there. Listen, most of the crowd was with him, as you could tell from the cheering when he said, did you agree with that? But there was a group that was booing him and kind of heckling him and acting like, no, we don't agree. And listen, I'll say it. As somebody on the left, I'll say it. One of the things that he deserves the most credit for was Operation Warp Speed. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the first breakthroughs in the vaccine came from overseas, came from other countries and other researchers. But listen, to cut red tape that perhaps was a little too onerous in the United States to try to speed up the testing and the production, I think that was the right thing to do given the nature of the pandemic. Now, I think he's being hyperbolic. He's giving himself too much credit by saying, look, this thing could have been the Spanish flu without the vaccine. I don't think the problem with the Spanish flu is that it created what's called a cytokine storm, which is like your immune system freaks out and goes too hard, and it created it in young people. So the Spanish flu actually killed, funny enough, it came from like Kansas, not Spanish. It's not Spanish, but so the wording there is terrible and seems like Spain is to blame, but it actually originated here in the U.S. It actually killed young, healthy people because they would get a cytokine storm. It was more deadly for young people than it was for older people. So I don't think COVID would have been like the Spanish flu with as high of a death rate and as high of the numbers of dead bodies. But look, there's no doubt about it that the vaccine has saved. There was a study that came out not too long ago. I don't remember the numbers, but let me try to pull it up as I'm talking to you here. I think it was 500,000. Let's see. Yes, so there was a new data that says 500,000 lives saved by COVID vaccinations in Europe. That's in Europe. There's one that came out in the U.S. This is a study from Yale. U.S. vaccination campaign prevented 279,000 COVID-19 deaths. And this came out, by the way, in July 2021. So he said to that point, 279,000 deaths prevented from COVID because of the vaccines. So, I'm willing to say in no uncertain terms that this is probably the best thing that Donald Trump did in office and the thing he deserves the most credit for, even though in other ways his COVID response was sorely lacking and indeed terrible. But he's correct here. He's correct in the broader point. Like, don't be dumb. Get the vaccine. I got the booster shot. We saved lives. Don't let people take that away from you. But I will say the other portion of this, which people are not acknowledging, particularly now on the Democratic side and on the left, there's not as much of an acknowledgement of this. Unfortunately, the COVID skepticism and the vaccine skepticism does in part stem from legitimate grievances, namely the institutional rot and failure. So, in other words, people on some gut level, they instinctively know that Big Pharma owns the government and there's massive corruption. And so they don't trust the authorities anymore because the authorities have failed us time and time and time and time again. Now, in this instance, it happens to be incorrect because the vaccine does work, but it's also correct that the institutions have failed us and that there is corruption and that Big Pharma does own the government. But they let that, again, my phrase that you guys always hear me say is you should be skeptical of everything, but don't be cynical. And a lot of people have crossed that line into cynicism. And now because of that institutional failure, they think like, well, I bet the vaccine doesn't work, or I bet it's a hoax or whatever. So credit to Trump here for saying the right thing. But you could also say, hey, it's a little too late, too little too late on that front. But some of his people are just they're not going to budge on this, man. They're not going to budge. I don't think it's a deal breaker for him in the sense that even anti-vax Trump supporters will still support him and vote for him in an upcoming election. But there's definitely a strong contingent that is so far gone that they're like, this is inexcusable. I mean, it was all over, I think, like conservative TikTok or whatever, big time Trump stans. This is the thing that made them be like, I'm done with him. Imagine this being the thing that you're like, I can't. He said something reasonable now for once. I mean, for the love of God, we could go through a zillion things he did that were just totally inexcusable. You know, the one that, there's a million, but one that sticks out to me is, remember when he randomly, on like a Tuesday before brunch, decided to assassinate a top Iranian commander who was on the ground fighting ISIS? It's like, that could have easily sparked a hot war, a broader hot war in the region between Iran and Israel. And obviously, it's a clear war crime, not allowed under international law. And he just randomly did it and acted like, what? I did the right thing. This is great. And he was bragging about it. Oh, sweet Jesus. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? And the list goes on and on. We're not going to run through them all in this segment, but this is the thing. This is the thing that you're like, Jesus, I can't I can't handle this guy. He wants me to be protected from the pandemic that's currently roaring and ripping its way through the country. So there you have it. What'll be interesting to see is if he continues to say this moving forward, because like I said, he A/B tests and he did get a little bit of pushback when he went with this. So my guess is he'll probably lean more on the talking point of like, you have your freedoms, I'm against mandates. He'll do that more than talking about how the vaccine is good, namely because that's the thing that gets the more positive reaction than talking about the vaccine working. So there you have it, Donald Trump being reasonable for once in his life, and a significant portion of his base saying, we hate it.